Good morning and welcome to Cloud Force Vibes. So I am in here in my grow room. We're going to push on past this big Nepenthes. And I was trying to figure out a couple things to talk to you guys about today. And what I noticed was my Pinguicula plants over here. I had to move them. Actually, they were in the window. And this guy was up there. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but he is absolutely covered in gnats. So I'm going to give him a break. I actually had some leaves start dying because I think they're being overfed. So I moved him down here, and I moved this cluster of them up. Oh, move them up here, and they are just growing out of control. So these three have tripled in size in just a couple months since being put in this new pot. And I don't know if you can see, but in here, sticky leaves. This big one is starting to clone itself a few more times. So I'm going to pull them out and I'm going to show you guys today how I divide and repot these. A lot of people have interest in them. I haven't gotten these to bloom yet, but they were all really tiny. They were about this size last year when I got them. I only had this one, and the one you saw behind me that's smothered in gnats. So they grow pretty quickly and they divide really fast. I got them in a community pot last year that looked not too dissimilar from this, and once they get their own space, they really kind of just explode. So we're going to give these their own space, and we're going to pick out the little babies out of there and put them in a little community pot and let them get some more light and start to grow a little bit better. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I hope you enjoy. We're going to go back and get everything set up on the table, and I'm going to show you how I pot up and divide my Pinguiculas. Alright, so we're back. First and foremost, let's talk about substrate. The media I use for my Pinguiculas, I make myself. There is many that you can buy out there, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's many types of ways to make your own. I found it to be the most cost-effective way to do it. You buy it in bulk. I mean, I could pot 1,000 Pinguicula seedlings this size right now with what I got for about $30 or so off of Amazon. So it's definitely the way to go. A lot of people mix it different ways. So this is my recipe for it. I like to do in ratios perspective, not necessarily quantity, but my ratio is 1 part, half, 50% Canadian sphagnum peat moss, and then I would say a quarter of the remaining is going to be perlite. And then a quarter of the remaining, half that again, is charcoal and sand. You want a really gritty mix. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but it's really gritty. There's just enough peat moss in there really to get a good wicking effect. I water these from the bottom. I always just keep them in a tray of water. And they come from an area that's got really rocky, sandy, gravelly soil. So you want something that looks kind of like that. Some people prefer pumice stone instead of perlite. This is what I had. I actually had perlite for the orchids, so I used it here and it works just fine. But again, you want it to be nice and chunky, nice and coarse, and fluffy at the same time because of the peat moss that's in there. You don't want you don't want it to be completely smothered for the roots. They like, again, lots of sandy, gravelly grit and texture in this substrate. That's enough about that. I get these little pots all the time when I buy orchids. These are the little 2-inch pots, I think, and they work smashingly well for Pinguiculas. They've got the holes in the bottom. You can keep them in a tray of water and bottom water them, let them soak everything up, and they just work amazingly well. So that is what we're going to use. Let's go ahead and get our first Pinguicula pot out. Now we're not going to remove all these plants. We're going to leave one of these plants in here because it's a perfectly good pot with brand new media. And what we're going to do is we're going to take, we're going to take our pot, we're going to fill it up real good with substrate. Oh, I forgot a step. I like to take a little bit of my charcoal, just a bit, and I like to put it down the very bottom. I do that so the holes don't get all clogged up. And it also acts as a bit of a filter. Charcoal's got activated, basically activated carbon. And it'll help keep our water nice and pure because it does sit there stagnant. I let it dry out completely in between waterings, but still, we do not want it to get nasty and negatively affect our plants. So I always like to make a bit of a mound on top. I like them to sit on kind of a little hill. That way they're well above the level of anything too moist and too wet. And I will spray it down just a little bit. It makes it a little easier to work with on the top. Again, we don't want to press, we don't want to compact it down in there too badly or too much. We just want to make sure that, let's see, I always forget. We just want to make sure it's no huge air gaps. We want to make sure that we have the ability to wick water up through the bottom of this. And that's it, guys. Those are two perfect pots for Pinguiculas. I'm going to go ahead and clean my hands off. I'll be right back, and I'll show you how we do this. Okay, so we're back. I've got my handy dandy aquascaping forceps right here. They have a nice fine point on them. It's great for extracting small plants from delicate areas. So we're going to go ahead and make a little bit of a hole right here in the middle of our two mounds. Oh, I don't know if you can see that one. Just a little bit of a hole. They have very shallow roots, as you're about to see. And the best way to do this is you just take your aquascaping pinchers, you slide in, and you just lift straight up. You're not even going to really clamp. They're very delicate plants. You just slide in, and you lift straight up. And they're going to come out very easily. As you see, they have very shallow, very tiny, weak root systems. And you want to make sure that you do anything you possibly can to preserve those. So we're going to sit it right down in our little hole, just like that. Get these out of the way so I can get down here in it. We're going to just kind of push the media in. I like to use, honestly, this end, kind of act like a shovel, and just kind of push your media up to the roots on either side of where you made the hole. And that's it. It will gently sit there. You don't want to press down too much. You really don't want to handle these plants too much at all. They are very delicate. And that is it. It is just that simple. So we're going to go ahead and do the other one the exact same way. We're going to take, which one are we going to leave in there? Let's take you out. So we're going to, hopefully you can see this, we're going to slide our aquascaping pinchers right in, and we are just going to lift straight up. I'm not pinching at all. It is just a lift technique. And they come right out again. You see these fine little roots? That is all you're working with Pinguiculas. So, excuse me. So again, we're going to sit it on our tweezers. We're going to find our little hole that we dug, and we are just going to put it in there very gently. Just sit it there, and we're just going to kind of push the media around it again, kind of locking it in. But again, you don't want to press down very firmly. You just want to kind of sit it there. It's going to root itself in. And that is it. That is how you divide your Pinguiculas. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this big guy right here next. It's a little bit tougher. I'm just going to bump him over into the center of his pot. Again, there's no reason to get rid of any of this. This is perfectly good media. I just repotted these not long ago. get him down in his own little hole, kind of centered in there. And that's that. So I'll go ahead and I will get out my next couple pots and get them prepped so you don't have to see that again. And we will be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're back with our last plant. This is one of the bigger ones. Oh, we're dripping water everywhere. Underneath there, he's got little plantlets starting on both sides, kind of all around him. And what we want to do is we want to kind of gently get them out of there, get them into their own pot. That way they have a better chance of surviving. They'll get more light, they'll have their own environment, and it is just all around better for them. And we are going to do basically the same thing. It's going to be very hard to get this on film, so bear with me. We are going to reach in there underneath, and we are just going to kind of comb the baby plants out with our tweezers. No pinching. As you see, they're very delicate, they're very small. We'll sit them right there for now. And that's it. You just comb them right away. Let's see if we can find some more. I know there's more on this side. Yep. So we are going to stick our tweezers in without clamping. We're just going to kind of pull those plants out. And they come right out, no problem. Little baby Pinguiculas. Let's see if there's any more hiding away. Yep, there's one more there. They do this a couple times a year. And that's it. So that's our cleaned up mother plant, if you will. And go ahead and put him back on his tray of water. We do not need that anymore. And now we have our three, gosh, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. 5 more Pinguiculas. So what once was 3 plants has divided itself into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plants in about a year's time. So they are very easy to propagate. We're going to go ahead and put ourselves a couple small holes around the side of this little hill that we've built here. And we're going to carefully do the same thing that we did with the mother plants with these. We're going to scoop them up very gently. We are going to get them situated in their respective little tiny hole that we just dug. And we're going to gently, gently just push some of the substrate in around them. Just covering the roots barely. And that is all they need, guys. Super easy. They are very easy to grow. They get the same conditions as my orchids do, intermediate conditions, from about 57-degree minimums in the wintertime to near 80 degrees, 82 or so in the summer as a high on the hottest days. They get pretty much full sun. I mean, they live right in the window or on my top shelves around my plants, and they just do a fantastic job of controlling my fungus gnat population. And they're fun to grow. They really are. They're really rewarding little plants. And that is our Pinguiculas that we have divided out of our tray. So we'll keep an eye on these together. We'll see how they grow. But you can see right now, I mean, those are just the tiniest of little tiny Pinguicula clones. But you give it a little while, and they're going to start to look more like these very, very quickly. They are, again, like I said, very easy growing. All I do is put water in a tray. I keep it moist when it's in growth. When it's hot outside, I never let it really dry out, but I never let the pots, I should say, dry out ever. But I will let the tray of water dry out before I fill it back up, as long as these aren't getting dry. That's the key. Make sure they stay moist. And in the wintertime, I might let this dry out for several days before I go ahead and go back and water it again. So we're going to go ahead and take this into the grow room, and we're going to show you where we put these guys. These are going to go right back where they were, but now we have to find a new little home for these, and I will show you how I set up a little tray for them and we'll find a spot for them. So we're back. I've got them together in this little plastic dish. I get these at Southern State. It's a gardening store, home store. It is amazingly cheap, and just on a terracotta little saucer. And this is all we're gonna do. We're gonna take some clean water, and we're just gonna fill up that tray. We'll probably have to come back in here. It's gonna soak it up real good, but we're gonna go ahead and fill up our tray real good. And that is it. When I said they are simple to take care of, they are simple to take care of. That is all I ever do for these plants. Every now and then they get divided and they just keep going. So that is our little Pinguicula propagation tray, I guess we'll say, of all the little babies. And we're gonna go ahead and find a spot for it in here. I'm gonna try to do this on camera, but we may have to abandon that. Oh God. Okay, we're back. We've got them right here in front of the window, next to our moss, next to our other Pinguicula, next to some real high sun-loving plants, and they just do fine. They really have no issues. Like I said, we'll check back in on these guys in a week or two and see how they're doing, but I have a feeling everything's going to go okay. And the other ones are nestled back in here where they belong, and they just really do a good job. Again, I keep them close to a lot of my mounted plants that stay moist, and the fungus gnats just seem drawn to them. You'll put them up there one day, and within a day or two, they're just covered. So they do a really great job again. They have really awesome flowers. I do not know what these flowers look like, so I can't put flowers of these up, but I will put a couple Pinguicula flowers up so you guys can get an idea of what they look like here. And that's really it. So that's my care, my culture, and the way that I divide and repot Pinguiculas. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. If you guys can't find these, hit me up. I will try to help you out. I know that there's several places in the United States that sells them, but they can be really hard to get a hold of. Some of the ones like this, the long leaf and things like that. But they are rewarding plants, and they are absolutely fungus gnat assassins. So great companion plants for orchids, guys. Anyway, so that's my video for the day. Thank you guys for joining me. As always, I really appreciate you all. And yeah, until next time, happy growing.